are welcome once again to Unit 4 of the model. And as we all know, in Unit 4, we are looking at the principles of selection and organization of physics curriculum experiences. And today we'll be looking at session 4 of this unit. And in session 4, we are going to look at balance of breadth and depth of physics experience or physics curriculum experience. My name is Patrick Ejay. Now, by the end of this session, you should be able to explain what is meant by the breadth of a curriculum content, explain what is meant by the depth of a curriculum content, and finally, strike a balance between the breadth and depth of a curriculum content when selecting learning experience. Now, let's look at the breadth of the curriculum content. The breadth. And when we say breadth of a content, we are referring to the total number of learning experience or the total number of topics which the curriculum design should contain. So the number of topics that should be in the physics syllabus, in the physics curriculum, is what is being referred to as the breadth of the content. Breadth also means how broad the curriculum coverage should be. How many topics should be there? How broad should these topics be? And that talks about the breadth of the curriculum content. And so, for instance, in selecting learning experiences for the senior high school program, you should consider which areas and sub-areas in the physics curriculum that should be covered. Which areas should be covered? What are the learning experiences? All these must be taken into consideration whenever we are selecting the physics learning experiences that will be included in the physics curriculum. Now, curriculum should have an adequate number of learning experiences for the program. So we know that this curriculum we are talking about is for the senior high school. And so you cannot take a senior high school physics and maybe you are seeing, let's say, 10 topics as the only topics that will be treated. Or let's say just 5 or 2 topics. You realize that at that level, this number of topics may not be adequate. And so anytime we are designing the physics curriculum and we want to consider the breadth, then we must also consider the number of topics or the number of learning experiences that will be included to make the physics curriculum. Now let's look at the depth. So the depth of the curriculum content refers to the degree to which each selected learning experience is treated. So when we select scientific units and measurements, where should we teach up to? Where should we end? This talks about the depth. And so an example is when we take the structure of the atom, for instance, as a learning experience or as a topic in the senior high school physics program. Now, if you want to consider the depth, should we only look at just the structure of the atom? Is it just drawing the structure where students will only show an electron on the shell, or the students should be able to show that we have a central portion of the atom which is called the nucleus, and in the nucleus we have the protons and the neutrons? Should it just end there, or we should go a step further and look at the various elementary particles which can also be found in the protons as well? All these talk about the depth of the curriculum content. And so when we take such a topic, you realize that we can treat the structure of the atom from the basic elementary to the most sophisticated level. And so whenever we are designing and we are looking at the depth, we must consider to what extent must the content be covered so that it will, at the end of the day, help the learners to get basic understanding of the various concepts that will be presented to them. Now, so you have to take a decision on the depth of treatment of each selected learning experience for the curriculum that you are designing. And in this case, we are specifically talking about the physics curriculum. And so each learning experience you select for the curriculum must be treated to enough depth. The students should not just be looking at the surface of the various topics, so that at the end of the day, they will finish the program and you mention some basic principles and applications. they boast that they have covered, the subjects that they will boast that, oh, I did physics. But you ask them basic questions, basic application questions on some topic, and you realize that they are lacking because they did not cover those areas. And so, how broad and deep should the curriculum content be? And here we are trying to strike a balance between breadth and depth. Now, breadth talks about the number of content, the number of topics that will make the content, and the depth talks about to what extent, to what degree should these topics be treated. So, how broad and deep should the curriculum content be? And so, we all know that at the senior high school program, at the senior high school, the program has a duration of 3 years. And because it is 3 years, if we overload the curriculum, what it will mean is that teachers may only try to brush through the various content so that their main aim will be to, cover or finish everything. However, when it comes to the breadth, you realize that the learners are going to lack over there. And so the content cannot be covered because the content are we have a lot of topics making up the content, but the duration is limited. So at the end of the day, we only brush through the system, we brush through the various topics so that students will only have a fair idea of what is there. But when it comes to the depth of it, they may not go there. So we will say that then we should have a limit to the curriculum experiences if we want to cover much in terms of depth. But then mere limitation to cannot solve the problem, may not be the solution to the problem. And so the curriculum content covered should be broad enough to cover the essentials. So whenever we are selecting the various topics to form the content, we must ensure that these are essential content topics that the learner will need so that we can cover these topics in depth. And at the same time, it should lead to the full and clear understanding of certain basic principles, ideas, or concepts, as well as their applications. So you realize that to have to talk about the breadth, saying that let us limit the number of content so that when it comes to depth, we can do more justice there. That shouldn't be the only solution. But the best solution is that we must select the essential topics, present them in the syllabus or the curriculum, so that after learners have gone through it, they will have a full understanding. They will have a clearer understanding of certain basic principles in physics as well as the applications of these basic principles. Now, students, in this session, we have discussed balance of breadth and depth in the curriculum, and we saw that we must strike a balance between the breadth and depth of coverage of the curriculum content so that after learners having gone through the content in the physics curriculum, they will have a clearer understanding of the basic principles as well as various ideas that have been presented, including the applications of those basic principles that were presented to them. Now, as we end this session, let's take this simple question like we have been doing always. How will you ensure that there is a balance of breadth and depth of the curriculum content? How are you going